Welcome back for the second half of the first day. So in the first half of the first day, we explored the future of spaces in its broadest sense. Lots of talking about mobility, technology, human interaction. Very interesting to me. Now we will make things a little bit more concrete. So we'll do this with a panel discussion. And the panel discussion will be about how to bring showmanship to stores, how to bring experiences to stores. Because as you all know, the store of today is not like the store of yesterday. The store of today has to be experiential, has to speak to the senses, has to engage with consumers, and retailers are still finding out how exactly to achieve that. So we thought we have a stellar jury in the retail category, and we have a stellar jury in the shows category of the Frame Awards. We have these people here. They are the real experts. So why not bring them together? Why not combine people from the retail industry with people from the exhibition, the experience, the show industry? So I personally expect a lot from this panel discussion, which will be guided by Frame's managing editor, Tracy Ingram. My left hand and my right hand, as you will shortly notice. So I want to ask Tracy to step up first. Please welcome Tracy Ingram. And then the other panelists, Michele Fuhs. Michele Fuhs, the head of luxury retail experience of BMW. An applause, please, for Michele Fuhs. And then Pieter Kool. Pieter Kool has been working for G-Star a really long period, and now is an independent consultant and strategist when it comes to design. Joe Nagasaka from Tokyo. Please welcome Joe Nagasaka, retail designer, office designer, experience designer. Mike Hughes, Universal Everything. I would say digital experiences, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's pretty close.
And last but certainly not least, Uwe Brückner of Atelier Brückner, exhibition designer for many, many years, ending in many, many books already. Welcome, Uwe Brückner.
Thank you.
Tracy and all of you, please take a seat.
Okay. Musical chairs.
Hi.
And the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Hey.
Take a seat.
Pieter, no.
Welcome. So thank you, Robert, for that introduction. I'll take it a little bit further and introduce a little bit more about each of our panel guests today. But yeah, again, just to remind everyone that the topic is about getting experiential, so how to bring showmanship to stores, actually. So first we have Joe Nagasaka. He's the founder of Schemata Architects in Japan, which he founded in 1998. And so at Frame, we've actually featured a lot of Joe's work over the years. And we really like his no-nonsense, pared-back approach. It's really clever, everything he does. And he's got a lot of experience designing retail spaces for the likes of Aesop and other big brands. And in a country, Japan, that's known for its forward-looking view on retail. So we're happy to have you. Thank you. Pieter Kool. I have to see where everyone is now. Pieter. So he worked at denim brand G-Star, which I think many people know here, and was responsible for the brand's identity in the built environment, and always looking towards the future, I think, a lot in your work. You've worked with the likes of OMA, Rem Koolhaas, Mark Newson, Pharrell Williams, I'll just keep going, BMW, Vitra, Selfridges, big names, and now has its own studio, so working between retail, brand development, and architecture. We also have Mike Hughes, Universal Everything's creative director. So I would say they're one of the leading edge digital experience design studios based in the UK. With his team, he's adding an experiential layer to physical space. So everything from fashion shows to buildings, installations, and for brands from Nike to Audi. And they also just recently did the touch responsive 3D wallpaper for the iPhone X, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. And then we have Uwe Brückner. I would say arguably the most experienced and sought-after exhibition design studio. And Uwe is the founder and creative director. And the studio takes a really content-oriented approach to each design. I think you've realized over 100 very successful exhibition designs. And they're most often really holistic experiences, so dealing with all of the senses as well. And last but not least, Michele Fuhs. He's the head of premium retail experience for BMW. And you've been working there since 2000, give or take?
Correct.
I'm waiting for them to tell me I'm wrong. But with a lot of experience in the retail industry, and you're currently the head of premium retail experience, constantly looking for ways to bring car sales to the next level. So before we get into the debate, it would be nice to hear just very briefly from each of you what you think the biggest advances are in your specific industry. Just very briefly. Maybe we can start with you, Michele.
Well, I think the biggest advance and movements that we have to do is to acknowledge that we have an extremely change in how mobility is seen and perceived, and that we have to be very quick in changing retail of our product into an experience, because who knows if in 20, 30 years cars are still used as they are used today. So the disruption is extremely strong in our industry, and we have to be quick and get something on top exciting onto our product.
Okay, thank you. And Joan?
Sorry, I haven't thought about it yet, so please.
We'll come back. We'll come back.
I'd probably say human exchange is probably one of the biggest things that's affecting us as a studio, and there's an openness now for scientists now work with mathematicians with architects, and I think this cross-pollination of all of these skill sets is creating new opportunities and new experiences. And then I guess also there's data now with machine learning and AI. I think we're going to be able to uncover things we've never been able to see before with data and use it in ways, for positive change.
Mm-hmm. As anyone who was here for Paul Skinner's talk, I think this morning will understand. Okay, Pieter?
Yeah, I'd say flexibility. You see that now architecture and I think also politics are becoming actually too slow to keep up with the speed of the world. So how to design flexibility into any basically into any design is of top relevance at the moment.
Okay.
Well, for our format and our field, I can say that there's a hype in brand experiences. So we are coming traditionally from museums, from classical museums, publicly funded museums. But what we were facing in the last 10 years is that most of the major brands decided to create a brand experience. So they're shifting their features from the trade fair events to a permanent exhibition. So we did this for BMW or for Hyundai in Seoul, which is extremely successful, and it's combining the product's value with the noble approach in a term of being presented museum-like. So this is something that it's exploding. So meanwhile, 50% of our projects are these kind of brand experiences.
Okay, thank you. Still going? Yeah.
The big development of architect industry is before we just giving to the users, but now more we would like to users to participate, like enjoy. We like to the users enjoy by themselves. So like we have to give them kind of the environment so that they can enjoy by themselves. So before, in terms of design, architect, we only thought about some tangible design, but now including modern buildings, more including the atmosphere where people can enjoy or people can laugh, so more intangible things too. So that's a big difference compared to before and now.
Okay, thank you. And those that do work in retail, do you think in general that retail and this kind of idea of events or an experience are coming indeed more together already? Or do you see that there needs to be a concrete separation?
Well, it depends who you ask. If you ask designers, they would all agree with this. But I find that in most stores, people just really enjoy going to a store where they know the guy that works there who knows them. Mm-hmm. And this component is still bigger than I think us designers think there is. So there's a huge potential just for good stores.
So more actually about hospitality in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
More, yeah.
But you also see that the cost of running a store, especially in a high traffic location, is so incredibly high that basically the store needs to generate more than just the sales on the floor. So I think it's also a financial brand need that it has a marketing value. Otherwise, it's just you're unable to afford it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Michele?
Well, I think that in fact we have to learn that product is past. Let's say experience is the new status symbol. So what we are showing is experience. And in fact, you see that with the younger generation or even the young remained older generation using all the internet and the social media. We try to exchange experiences. Our retail has to learn that we're not talking about something physical anymore. So getting more and more something experiential means we have to be touched by 5 senses and not only by seeing something. So one part is important. How do you get the people into your store? Because you don't need a store. You can have everything online. So what is the worth of having something physical? What is the role of the dealer in future? And experience, and with it, the showmanship comes in to create something that is completely different or on top of what you can experience with a product alone.
Can you briefly explain how? Or where you're at with this now?
No, well, I think there are some possibilities. The question, and Pieter mentioned it also, is a matter of costs. How can you create something that is that you can still invest in because it's only there for half a year, and then you need something new. Mm-hmm. So we don't have to invest in something that's costing 100, 200,000 euros because you have to regain it by selling something. So we have to be creative in going away from just thinking it is one place where you have your product, your brand. Perhaps we have to enlarge and work more with others and co-create an environment, perhaps an ecosystem if you want, or a platform in which we as customers can experience the product of the brand plus other USPs on top. So it's getting closer together.
Mm-hmm. If I may challenge your... I don't think people are looking for an experience, they're looking for meaning. And it's a lot of times assumed that you need an experience in order to create meaning. Mm-hmm. But I don't, in many cases this is actually not true. Like, I mean, people are also looking for amazingly good products with a perfect story to it. And retail does not have to be an experience in order to offer this to the customer.
So you more mean that the product tells the story itself, that no other story is necessary in the space, say?
Yeah, it becomes a bit of a philosophical thing because this is also an experience.
It's also an experience.
So, but I deeply believe that the content plays a major role or a better role than only 5 years ago. So even the architects are now crying for content. So they never dealt with content because they just did buildings or sculptures and that was it. I give you an example. So we once worked for Panasonic for a trade fair stand, and we did a little game with our client by coincidence. So they were not prepared on it. So we took stereo cases and changed the front plate. Yeah, and then we let the client judge which of the front plate belongs to the case and the interior, because the interior is the same. The components are the same. Only the front plate differed. And they were all wrong. What do I want to tell with the story is that out of this experience, we created a trade fair stand that did not promote the product on first sight, but on second and third sight. We promoted what the surplus of the product was, what you could achieve with the product. So we created a trade fair stand with 270-meter long Möbius band projection with the then brand new digital projectors of Panasonic, with the effect that 50,000 people were wandering through this trade fair stand a day. It was completely packed. You couldn't see the projection anymore. But the result was that more than 50% of the potential clients and customers asked, how did you do this? And the promoters only made this with our beamers, with our projectors. And this was the entry card to the product itself. So this is a change of perspective and a change of approach. You don't need to approach the product on first sight anymore. You need to approach the people by what the product can do, or can do better. Yeah. That's the major change that I recognized in the last 5 to 10 years.
Do you feel brands bring you in for the same reason?
I think so, yeah. I mean, every single brand or brief is completely different, and it's about, I guess, appropriating the right tools for the right job. Some people come to us immediately asking for technology, and our first thing is, you know, it shouldn't be used as a gimmick or trickery, or what's the purpose? If there's no purpose to use the technology, then we refrain from using it, and we use other methods. In terms of engagement, we try to create an emotional connection with visitors and with the product. And in a lot of brands that we're working with at the minute, one of the things that they're trying to communicate is their product is in constant evolution, and so is the brand. They've got a vision of in 10, 20 years' time, which means the product is actually going to change. So they've got a much deeper story to tell. And especially if you look at something like the automotive industry, they're completely rethinking it. And you know, the term automotive may die, and it may just become mobility. And it's how you kind of create and set this emotional groundwork now, so people are engaging with you. So I think there's much more of a storytelling aspect that needs to be conveyed in these experiences now, because people want more than the product, basically. They're buying into the spirit of the brand, and they need to connect with it.
Joe, if we check in with you about the connection between retail and events, or yeah, whether you think they're coming closer together or basically drifting further apart.
Sorry, what, coming closer together or drifting apart? I missed your question. Together or drifting apart?
Because now the consumer is completely different from before and now.
My intention to bring people together.
So idea of the consumer, they have more like a mix of everything. So of course we have to follow how consumer thinks. So the point is, so before as a media, like a magazine is a very, was very important as a media, but now it replaced by social media like SNS, like internet. So because of that, we have to make the best use of internet to improve the industry, architect and design industry. So it's very important.
But you also, I mean, a lot of the things that we're talking about, experiential stuff, I think there's often a digital factor, at least with some of us. But your stores don't often use technology, or at least not in a classical sense. I mean, you recently designed a store that uses 3D printed displays, worked together with DIS. But technology itself is not super present in your stores.
Yeah, on our shop, my shop, we haven't used the technology yet. But of course, I believe we need to use that in the future if we have an opportunity to do that.
Okay. So you're looking ahead to how do we do this? Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Uwe, you talked about brand experiences. Do you think that the brand experience could ever replace the store, or how do you feel the two connect?
No, but they should have something in common, like a ID or similar storytelling. I mean, you know, I think that the time is over when all the shops and stores look the same, like we had in the 1980s, because you have the same product, and as Michele said, you can withdraw all the information from the internet. Why should the people go there? You know, once my 16-year-old daughter asked me, "Daddy, why should I go to a museum? Because I can withdraw all the information from the internet 24 hours, 7 days a week." This was a smart question, I think. And my answer was because, or if the museum is a place, or the exhibition is a place that needs your physical presence to work at all, then you have a reason to go there. And I think museums and shops or experiences behave in a similar way. Only if I'm attracted to find something exquisite, tailor-made there, I will travel. And young people travel. They have no problem. It's so easy and so cheap to travel around Europe. If they are attracted by a unique design and a unique storytelling. And I think this will last, it will even increase. We are just at the beginning of the ramp of this kind of awareness. I call this positive awareness. For example, the BMW Museum is the only car museum in the world that is organized according to the brand values. All others according to their collection or to chronology of their collection. So what did we do? We analyzed the values and we analyzed also how the company was promoting these values over 80 years. And we found out there were some common topics, but we registered that the youngsters had no awareness of it anymore. And then we tried to do a design that is exactly reflecting in a subtle way what the company wanted to express. And it's working till 10 years now. So it was open to 2008. And it's attracting more than 750,000 people here. It's the second best visited museum in Munich. It's not a publicly funded museum. It's just actually, it's a very high-class, high-end showroom museum. It's a hybrid, yeah. But this kind of character, this kind of spirit, this museum breathes, is strong enough to convey both the message of the company, the quality of the product, plus an exquisite experience that you can't find anywhere else. Yeah, and I think the combination, because for the youngsters, they stand up with their smartphone in the morning and they go to bed with a smartphone. Everything is in the smartphone. What else can you attract? Not just the
youngsters.
But still, we need to eat, to breathe, to sleep. And I always say real sex is better than virtual sex. Also, Woody Allen already in the 1960s in his movie The Sleeper came up with a different prognosis. So it's worthwhile to look or to watch this movie again. It was very anticipating our times, but as I said, still we have some physical needs, and I think it's wise and worthwhile to feature them in the future.
And I think, I mean, we talk a lot about technology, but technology means so many different things and so many different levels. While Joe says he's thinking about, what can that be in my stores? I mean, I know in G-Star stores, for instance, you had these iPads at the very start, iPads in stores, but not anymore. Didn't work out.
No, we found that most digital interfaces are very helpful when they're used by the staff.
Okay.
But when they're used by the customers, hardly ever they are successful.
And do you think, do you know why? Or can you hazard a guess as to why?
Why would you go to a physical store to look at a screen?
Because we all have one ourselves.
Yeah, and I think in that case, I think when autonomous driving is coming, this whole discussion will change completely, because then the store can come to you, or you go to the store, but you're not in the process of going somewhere, you're just doing your other stuff. And then my feeling is that the physical experience of shopping will become much stronger, even though it's a completely digital enabled experience. But it will be super physical because you can actually be present.
Okay.
I guess one thing with that is a lot of the times when it fails with technologies. People are asking for immersive and engaging. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to ask too much of the visitor. I think the best digital experiences, the tech is invisible, and things happen around you, and it can do this. You know, the room can change context-aware environments and stuff using sensors and things. And one of the other things you need to do is you need to make sure that any interaction is intuitive and remove any barriers for entry. And sometimes when you can have iPads, and if the iPad is not the product you're selling, it's just another barrier to entry, really, to actually experience the product and the story that you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important, the approach. We found out throughout evaluation of so many exhibitions we did, only if I was addressed personally, only if I was meant, this is what I call personal positive awareness, then my experience stays for longer, is sustainable. But if it's just scratching the surface, it goes away like any other events or like any other attractions on the surface. Only if I have the feeling, oh, they did it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you mean me? Is it me that is meant?
It's personal.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Then you automatically create a connection between things, spaces, messages, and so on. And I think that will still be valid, even if the digital age is even more influential in the future than it is now. It's a tool, but still we are physical.
Maybe we can, for our audience today, try and describe or visualize what some of these, what this could actually look like. I mean, does anyone have any ideas of what this hybrid space could look like, or where it's going?
Well, it's difficult, perhaps. Otherwise, we could read the glass bowl. But I call what we have to create is so-called phygital spaces, where the digital part is not visible in that sense. It is there, but it's not just put on the table bluntly. I find it interesting, just to add to that, how many brands are now investing in digital. And by the way, what many brands think is digital is just a screen. And what is happening in the back is the digital part, but no one is really investing on the intelligent way, I think. And if we would invest the same money that we're investing in digital into humans, I think we would be more successful. Just to add to everyone the question, how many letters do you get from your customers complaining about the fact that there was not an iPad in the shop? I presume beneath 2%. The real point that people point out in the letters to your CEO is, I was not treated personally, there was no welcome, there was no human interaction. So interesting enough, we are investing all in digital, but we as customers, we are not missing the digital part, really. I mean, we need to have it. I'm not saying that we don't need it. But as Mike said, it has to be intelligently in the back. So how do you create these phygital spaces? We need to build some experiences that are technically supported and that create, I mean, the meaningfulness, Pieter, in the experience. The experience has to be meaningful. If you have, you can destroy an experience if it is just blah-blahing or if it's just a one-time act. So the intelligence is within the brands to find how do you create, on top of what you have as a product, the link to emotions which are going to remain in your memory, using digital, using human beings, using design. So it's getting these three things perhaps together which creates the real retail experience. And I think it's a big problem for many brands to get these three things together. Just an anecdote, most of the brands, when they want to change something, the first thing they want to see is, and they go to a designer, they ask, can't you do me a draft? How does it look like? That's the first question. They want to see a scribble. But they're not asking, or they're not giving you the story of what do I want to transport? What do I want our customers to leave, when they leave my store or whatever, what are they taking with them? And this question is rarely given. Mm-hmm. At least this is how I see it.
Or, for example, in a previous discussion with CFOs from a couple of big name brands, I put on the table, what if the tax would tax the internet sales higher than the personal sales in the physical shop? What do you think would happen? A revolution, but a revolution not back to the situation of the 1980s or 70s or before, but there would be new inventions and new designs coming up, including personal stuff. Yeah, and that's very simple. The politics just need to tax the internet shopping higher than the physical shopping. And you would see how vivid our centers of the cities and even the villages would become, because there's a change of perspective. Yeah? And I think we need this radical thinking. We need radical scenarios that challenge the idea that everything turns more physical. Not because I'm thinking that more digital. Not because I'm a follower or an old-fashioned guy coming out of the analog time. So for me, innovation was the fax. So I bought my first digital thing that I bought from my own money was a fax. And it was amazing because I could send sketches to the rest of the world. I did a sketch and I put it in this machine, and the machine was swallowing my piece of paper, and thousands of miles away, someone was standing at the same machine, and it came out. My idea came out. So I could send my ideas without words, just sketches. What a revolution. And my daughters don't even know what a fax was. Yeah, and faxes are almost not existing anymore. Everything is done smartphone directly, intermediate, and so on. But why shouldn't we challenge the digital age? I would go for it. Yeah. I think it would create a lot of new ideas, including us. Yes. Maybe I lose my job next day because avatars are doing my sketches. Yeah, you know. So. Would be interesting for me to see how it could be thought over in a completely controversial way.
I'm not sure if the government should file moral judgment whether online or physical shopping is better over the other, though.
No, it's not better, but just think about the scenario. Think about that online shopping would be more costly than the physical shopping. What would happen?
It still is, eh? I mean, any online store below 30 million is very difficult to make a profit.
So this was not talked previously or anticipated. But you see, what I like is to provoke sessions like this one to go for a more radical thinking and for a challenging thinking. We do not need to follow trends. If we are part of it. We are part of it. I started one of the first interactive and reactive systems in exhibitions some 20 years ago. So I should blame myself if I would not follow the digital age. But I like to challenge it. Yeah. There's more than bits and bytes.
Offer
That's it, pretty much.
Well, how digital do you think a physical space should and can become?
It can become very scary, I guess. It's just how you can. I mean, one of the big things is how you can use data. I know we were talking about. You've got so many stores, and you're trying to activate a story across all of them. And I guess that's one way. Digital may be a tool that can connect all of the stores. And evolve them over time, because there's obviously the cost and implications of changing stores constantly, but, using technology and data, you can have evolving artworks and evolving, I guess, installations that constantly change, that can be seasonal, that can change by day. They can use public data, or they can use the data of visitors visiting the space to kind of interact and make them aware of their social situation. So there's lots of different ways, I guess, you can add layers and layers of digital. I guess it's just, from a data point of view, is what's acceptable. And then also, people still like not to, when you go to a store, you don't want to really be controlled. when you walk around the environment, there still needs to be a sense of discovery and curiosity. So I think it needs to be still cleverly choreographed, at which point that technology comes in, and whether it's, and the levels of interaction. And then if there are interactions, then like I mentioned earlier, you just need to remove any barriers of entry, make it very intuitive. And the design, I guess, in interactions with technology is still quite clumsy in a lot of cases. And most of the things we've done, if we have been almost prompted by the client to have heavy-handed interaction, those interactions literally last 30 seconds, and the design parameters in place, so the output from that is really beautiful, and it's very easy to use. And I think this is really important to not off-put people, and kind of to cause a quick rejection to technology, because a lot of the times, and even though we use it every day, there is still a hesitation a lot of times to engage with it unless you're an ambassador of that brand and experience you're stepping into.
Because I also hear a lot, we have to add technology, but it feels like, even that should almost be questioned of, do we just have to because we think we have to, or more what can it actually add?
Well, another interesting thing, and something we're looking at internally, is there's a big backlash coming against technology and to try and switch up from screens, and also, as mentioning earlier, people think of screens as needing to be these rectangle things that are bright pixels and on all the time. That's not the case. But we're actually investigating how technology can be used to change behaviors in environments. And one of the most interesting briefs we've had in the last year or two was for an airport, and it's a very chaotic, crazy environment. And our concept and approach for this, they wanted to use technology, but we wanted to use it in a way that was invisible and basically created a meditative, calm space that literally was completely invisible, but the whole idea was just for people to kind of reflect upon oneself and to contemplate one another. So it was used in a way that was, I guess, the opposite to the way it's normally used, in that it was completely invisible, and it was more about, I guess, you immediately are immersed into this space the moment you step into that environment. Yeah,
and maybe from the retail specialists, a bit of a reality check of what is possible right now. What are the barriers to progress digitally? Where do you feel things are at right now?
Well, you see a complete split between the stock keeping of the store. That's probably in the same store where it used to be, and the store front. And now to the customer, everything is a store, whether you buy online or buy in the physical store. And the stock that's kept in the physical store is mostly used to supply online buyers for 1 hour delivery or same-day delivery. So stores are becoming partly distribution center, and other parts are just basically a big shop window with very good service.
Like a showroom.
So this split is there, and to organize this split, you need a lot of technology, because to build this network is incredibly complicated. But it's all basically it's all invisible.
Okay.
Well, I think if you look at the customer-oriented digitality, there are two factors. The one thing is that, let's say, speaking of our dealers, you find those who are embracing new technologies, and you find those who are, I say, looking to the back and to the past. So to convince someone who's looking backwards to use technology is more difficult than those who are closer to it. There's one factor. The next thing is a cost issue. That naturally you can do things highly technical with I don't know what video walls and interactive and NFC technology here, beacons there. It's a cost issue. Now, if I have to sell 5 cars to get per day more to get the investment back, I'm definitely not going to invest in digital. So digital has to be easy to, let's say, to spend the money in and get it back again. And the next thing is that even if I have the technology, it has to be stupidly easy. So I switch it on in the morning and I switch it off in the evening. The one moment that a person in the dealership has to spend more than 10 minutes on getting something fixed, I'm completely sure, and I know this from our dealers, you don't see this technology anymore working, and the screen is black because they don't want to spend money. The money they need is for selling. So technology has to be clever, easy, and cheap. And I think this is the challenge, that we could do a lot more. We could be, I think, do crazy stuff, but who's going to pay for it?
Mm-hmm. And Joe, a final word from you?
So actually, I have one question as a paneler. And so of course, when we introducing technology, of course, the budget and cost will increase. So we have to share other parties to, to maintain the cost a bit lower. So my question is, by sharing this, is there any problem of So by sharing the technology, like of course all parties, for example, designer, architects, technicians, so maybe a risk, is there any risk that each of them have exactly same impression by consumers? It cannot be stand out. You know what I mean, like. So because of course we have a lot of options, means a lot of possibilities right now. So which is good, absolutely, like no doubt. But because of this, my concern is like, because before like architect, designer, technician, they all each have like outstanding skills, things they can show it to consumers. But because of this, it's more mingled, and then each skills can be more vague.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my concern. So we'd like to know your opinion about this point.
Maybe more from the technological experts here.
I'm thinking, is the question that basically where there's so many different parties and presenting to a single client that's obviously using architects and technologists, how do you present a holistic vision? Is that?
I think more that my understanding was more that now an architect might also have skills in many different fields. There's a lot of cross-pollination between one person has many expertise. Is that what you mean, or? We'll get there. It's okay.
I will hope I can translate correctly. Now more options, so means more information, and a lot of information coming to you. So in the past, as an architect designer for myself, I assembled the things. If the client asks something, and assembled, but now more, it's like if you imagine a DJ, like not really assemble, it's more like gluing together, like.
So how do you choose? Is that what you mean when there's too much? Too much?
No, it's like more like you tend not to think, like think less. If you have a lot of options, so you only choose because there are a lot of options already. But before, less options, so you have to think more. You had to think more before, but now you don't really have to think about it because the option is there in front of you. So that's a concern.
Okay. You understand?
I think so, and I think it's maybe the way Hughes' company works in terms of literally, I guess once you have an idea, hopefully the idea helps you make those decisions, about there's so many different ways you can take it, but I guess once you've settled on an idea and a story and the way you want to tell it, I mean, the way we work anyway is just to then build a team around it, I guess the content really. And that's normally the way that you find the right partners and like minds, and then when we collaborate with many different people, there's just a flat hierarchy, everyone has their skill sets, but we're all working to that original core concept. That, I think, answers what you're thinking.
I think we're out of time. Do we have a moment for questions, or is it one question, one burning question, if there is a question?
Two.
The audience, yeah.
Hi. So the topic here was a little bit what is changing inside stores, right? How can we improve experiences in stores with what's going on around us? But my question is maybe best directed to Michele and Pieter. What's going to happen with the shopping centers? What's going to happen with the environments that the stores are located in? And how do you see that 10 years from now? What is the vision from your perspective a little bit on that?
My personal view is that, first of all, we brands tend to define a certain shop. So we have our outlets, we have brand stores, we have pop-up stores, and whatsoever. We give them a name and define what you show and pick in there. I personally believe that for us customers, it's really unimportant how you call it. You want to experience the brand as a whole. So it is either in the museum, it's in the brand store. At the end, if I want to buy a product, I don't mind if it's in the museum. Why should I not be able to buy something in a museum? So the shopping centers, I think, are going to change as being places where you have many brands, but perhaps cooperating more. Instead of having the boxes one close to the other, you have to find some communalities between brands. Where can we interact together? So for a car brand, is it useful to be in the shopping center? And is it only because you have more traffic? Or do you want to create an ecosystem or a platform where my customer gets more than just purely this product, but some other aspects of the product, let's say in this case mobility, or some services on top which he would not get otherwhere. I don't believe that the future of shopping centers is going to stay the same as it is today. So big halls with just boxes of different brands. I think in 10 years' time, this is my personal point of view. So.
Anything to add, Pieter, before we wrap up? Or?
Half of the shopping center should close.
Yeah.
An accurate forecast.
Yeah. And be replaced by?
No, they don't need to be replaced.
Yeah.
They're redundant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. Thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we have another panel discussion in the afternoon as well. So please feel free to join it.
Thank you.
Michele Fuhs, thank you very much. Joe Nagasaka, thank you very much. Mike Hughes, Pieter Kool, Brückner. Great to have you here. And thank you very much, of course, Tracy, but you will be back later on. Wasn't that a mesmerizing experience? I mean, talking heads, looking at people entering into a real discussion. I mean, you can enter all the technology and all the digital devices that you can imagine, but they can hardly replace a good conversation.